Well, here we are, the fourth Sunday of Easter, and the fourth Sunday of Easter, you'll notice all of the hymnody and that sort of thing today is all around shepherds, sheep, shepherding, and because the fourth Sunday of Easter is always called Good Shepherd Sunday, as reflected in that window, for instance, and each year in the 3-year lectionary, the readings for this Sunday are all some iteration of Jesus talking about himself as shepherd and sheep and that sort of thing, and we heard a part of that today. This reading, though, that little snippet we had, I think is in fact far more dense than how we often sort of just glide over it, gloss over it, and take it in light and frothy ways. And why I think it is far more dense has to do with the setting of it, where John, the gospel writer John, puts this in the context of his gospel story. So immediately preceding this is the little squabble Jesus and the Pharisees are having around the man born blind from birth, and so they ask, well, who sinned, this man or his parents? And so again, that idea that if bad things happen to you, it's punishment, this sort of angry God kind of understanding. And remember, they sort of question the parents. Remember, those are the parents that throw their son under the bus by saying, oh, well, I don't know, he's old enough, ask him. Like, we're not getting involved in this. They're afraid they throw even their son out under the bus. And then the last line, right before this text starts, is the Pharisees near him heard him and said, well, surely we're not blind, are we? And Jesus said to them, if you were blind, you would not have sin, but now that you say we see, your sin remains. Very truly, I tell you, anyone who does not enter by the sheepfold, and then he carries on, okay? So it's part of a continuous dialogue. There's more we need to know about that context, however. At the start of chapter 7, and again, this flows all the way through 8, chapter 9 is the man born blind from birth. Too many B's in that sentence. Born blind from birth. Chapter 7, it's the festival, I think it's the Festival of Booths. It's a fall festival. And so one of your duties and responsibilities you would have to come to the temple and offer sacrifices. And we've talked before about how that sacrifice system worked at the temple, right? Your sacrifice had to be inspected and had to be blemish-free. But if it wasn't blemish-free, don't you worry about it, because we would happen to have just over here in a pen, for your convenience, of course, pre-inspected, guaranteed blemish-free, turtle doves, pigeons, sheep, and goats. And you could buy them, except you can't use your money. It's got to be temple money. But again, for your convenience, we also have money-changing tables over here that for small administrative fees and a little bit of an upcharge, we'll change the money, so we'll take care of you. And so that's what all of these pens are. And when Jesus speaks this, it would seem he's standing by those pens. So that this text is operating on both a literal level, so that when he's standing there and talking about the sheepfold, I'm guessing he's talking about the pen right there that holds the sheep. And it also, of course, is operating on a metaphorical level. And so if you think again of that system, those temple priests, do you think any of them ever visited that sheepfold to, do some of the mucking out from the sheep, or help the shepherds out, or actually get their hands dirty with any of that? I doubt it very much. And Jesus says to us that who he is, he's right in there in the pen with us. So again, this differentiates from, at that time, you think about this, the Greek or Roman pantheon of gods, and Zeus or Jupiter, they're constantly going to zap you and take you out, and even some of the ideas in ancient Israeli religion around Yahweh and that, similarly, kind of like a thunder god. Jesus is in the pen with us. And then when he says about he's the first to go through the gate, it's probably a bit of foreshadowing with respect to his crucifixion. Right? He's the first. But then did you notice what he says about the sheep in that pen is that they will find pasture, a place of peace. They can come and they can go and freely. Well, the sheep who are literally in that pen, that's not the case for them. It's one path forward. We know where that path is leading to. With Jesus, there's no coercion. Did you notice there's nothing in there talking about, a bunch of sheepdogs nipping at the heels to drive those sheep forward? There's no terror. There's no power games. There's none of that. It's just the sheep hearing his voice and finding peace and pasture with him, the Good Shepherd, whose will for us is only ever a good will. And he talks about the thieves and the bandits. And that is a part of this text that I think is particularly pertinent to our era. There was some ad I saw the other day flashed up on my phone. I can't remember, I should have sent it to myself somehow or something. But have you noticed with marketing these days, in this consumerist, very materialist culture, have you noticed the number of ads and stuff these days that are using religious sounding language? And so this ad the other day, it was going on something about how if you just went, I think it was a car, you go with this and you'll find your salvation. More and more of them are using this religious sounding language that here's where you'll find fulfillment. We've got all of these snake oil salespeople around the world that are promising fulfillment and happiness and salvation. If only you have this kind of a house, or you drive that sort of a car, you have these sorts of clothes, or, it's all about the things out here. They are thieves and bandits. That's what they are. And it comes as no surprise to me that in our society, as Christianity gets more and more sidelined, and crime is going like that. I think it was the UK government, the US I understand is doing the same. Don't know whether any of this is happening in Canada. The UK government this last week announced this initiative that they're going to try to develop some study commissions to figure out what can they do to stem the violence, especially knife crime, among some generations in the UK and stuff. But again, as I say, when you sideline Christianity, we were, a lot of us were raised with the idea that Christianity was the foundation for our ethics for centuries. It was the foundation of our ideas of how do we treat one another? What's okay in terms of how we treat one another? And I'm not looking at history through rose-colored glasses. I am fully aware that there are a number of times in our history when we've gotten a little bit off track and done some not great things, right? But throughout, there was this beacon that was out there nonetheless calling us to better, so that when the foundation of our society is a set of ideas like, thou shalt not steal, it's not open to a lot of interpretation, right? Now we seem to have a society that prefers to say, well, it's complicated, actually. We have to start qualifying these things. No, we don't. How about don't steal? Simple. Thou shalt not murder. Simple. There's not a lot of room for misinterpretation in that, it seems to me. We Christians, the followers of Jesus, we can look at all of this chaos in the world, though, and say, okay, well, what do I do about all of that? And as you have heard me say 101 times, I cannot personally do one single thing to stop, say, for instance, the war in Ukraine. I can't do that. But what I can do, and what you can do, is in our own lives, in our own little spheres of influence, say, well, which voice am I listening to? Like, have I fallen prey to some of these snake oil salespeople who are promising all of these crazy things? Or am I focused strictly on the voice of Jesus? One of the vows that is taken at ordination is that you believe the Old and New Testaments to contain all things necessary to salvation. It's a wonderful vow. And if you think a bit more about that vow, what it's saying is we don't have need of anything else. It's not that other things can't on occasion be helpful, right? It's not that they can't be helpful, but they're not necessarily needed. The Old and New Testaments, it's something about, do you believe and swear that contain all things necessary to salvation. We Christians are the people who, as we grow in our faith in this pilgrimage and learning what it is to be a disciple of Jesus, we have a peace within us and a calm within us and a gentleness within us as we become more and more loving people after Jesus' model. Right? On the Maundy Thursday, the night before he's arrested, love one another just as I have loved you. Not love one another with whatever that might mean for you and interpret it on your own, and you make up your own gig and go with that. It's not what he said. He said, love one another just as I have loved you. So he is the model for our love. He is the model for our self-sacrificial service to others. He is the model for us. That's the voice we listen to. It's the only thing we actually need. Amen.